best martial arts for self-defense. Yeah. What's up, everybody? This is JD here at Martial Arts Unlimited, and today, the question of the day is, what is the best martial art for self-defense? You know, I'm an instructor. I'm a black belt in multiple martial arts. I've been doing martial arts pretty much my entire life, and I've gone off the beaten path. I've done the ninjutsus, and I've done the, the taekwondos and the karates. I've also come over to the side of where I've done Muay Thai, I've done kickboxing, I've done MMA, I've done CSW, I've done BJJ. I'm a black belt in multiple arts, and so I thought it'd be a fun topic to talk about and say, hey, which style is better for self-defense? We're gonna try to put these in a tier list. Let's start with Taekwondo. Taekwondo is probably the most popular martial art on the planet. Is it a good self-defense style? Well, let's look at it. The breakdown is 70-30. 70% of the techniques are kicks, and of course you're getting more points or more priority for kicks to the head. And then, of course, striking, punching is considered frowned upon. Kicking to the head in the street is not a really practical option. Will it work? It can work sometimes, of course. Anything can work sometimes. I'm gonna give you a quick little story. I did try to throw a round kick, and it's kind of a play fight. It wasn't a real on situation, but I went to throw a round kick at my friend's head, and there was just a little bit of ice, or maybe it was starting to freeze over, and I slipped and I fell on my back, and I didn't know how to break fall at the time, and I just landed, hit the ground, knocked the wind out of me, and I was just done. And then my friend came up and went blick right in my nose. He was like, you lose, and I did lose. I would say it's not my primary style. I would definitely not say, hey, if you're looking for street self-defense, go check out Taekwondo. If you're looking for, you want to increase flexibility, if you're looking for, hey, I want to have a discipline or a structure, or maybe I want to just, increase or improve my kicks, then by all means, Taekwondo is the way to go. But I'm going to say for straight up self-defense, it's probably not the ideal situation. I would say Taekwondo is going to be in the C or D tier, pretty low. Moving on, karate. All right, so probably the second most popular martial art ever is going to be karate. And one of my biggest pet peeves is when I see a sign that says karate, then when I walk up to the door, I see American Taekwondo or I see Taekwondo. That irritates me because it's kind of like false advertising. But regardless, that's not what we're talking about today. But if it does bug you, put in the comments below because I'd be curious to hear who all else that's bugged by. But anyway, karate. So karate for what I was trained in was more of a 50-50 blend. 50% of the techniques were hands, 50% of the techniques were kicks. Is it ideal? No. But is it better than what I think Taekwondo is? Yes. Karate is going to be in the B tier. Not an A, not an S, but in a B tier. Everybody's favorite, Aikido. I personally feel Aikido isn't the worst when it comes to self-defense. I don't think it's the best though. I just think it's gonna take more time to be more proficient. Again, I think Aikido gets a bad rap from a lot of people because we're trying to make it fit in a box that it's never designed for. In the world of self-defense, meaning somebody just grabs you in the store or somebody just goes to put their hands on you, I think Aikido gives you a couple viable options, maybe where you could just throw them off you and then you can get the hell out of Dodge. If you put in the time and the energy and your gym has some good randori. And I got to show Sensei Seth some of that and I had a good time, but it was like, he brought up a really good point. The beginning randori is like fighting zombies with no teeth. I thought it was a pretty good analogy. I thought it was pretty accurate because it does start off that way. And then depending on, I would say how the instructor wants to take it. Still wasn't meant to be a straight up cage fight or a ring fight. It was meant to just be a committed attack, but it could have been a punch, it could have been a kick, it could have been a grab, it could have been a knife slash, it could have been a stick slash, something like that. And it actually made it really fun. And also I think it gave us a little bit more realism sense when it came to Aikido. So if you're doing a combative style of Aikido similar to what I grew up with or what I learned, then I would say, yeah, B tier. Filipino martial arts. I would have told you about 2-3 years ago, I thought Filipino martial arts was going to be like an A tier or maybe even an S tier because I thought, knife defense and stick defense. But as I've grown and as I've worked with Icy Mike and of course Sifu Ed Stahl and I've worked with Balicki and Guru Dan and everything, and I've kind of had a different appreciation for it. I think Kali is a lot of fun. I think Filipino martial arts are a ton of fun. I love it for the hand-eye coordination. I also love it for the testing of my right to left brain. However, I'm not sure the likelihood of a stick versus a stick or a knife versus a knife, or a stick and dagger versus stick and dagger, or of course double stick versus double stick. I think one person having a knife or one person having a stick, I think those techniques do give you some good street situational self-defense, like, hey, how would I make this work? And I actually want to talk about that in a future video, but I'm going to say this is now going to be probably a C or a D, as I think a lot of the techniques are great for hand-eye coordination, like I just said, and I think it's also something I can do as I'm getting older, and I can do much longer. Like something like Guru Dan, like he can still do Filipino martial arts and Jeet Kune Do well into his 80s, but he's not taking a lot of punishment. Whereas I think in the world of MMA, Jiu-Jitsu, whatever, you're kind of getting abused a lot. This I think is great for like cultural preservation, and just because, hey, I maybe want to stay agile and mobile, I think it's good for that. Moving on to Krav Maga. My personal experience with Krav Maga, I would say, hasn't been the best. The handful of people that I've met that have shown me a few things from Krav Maga, or the instructors that I've dealt with, didn't really do the best job at showcasing the art. And even in that, I showed a couple techniques, and it seemed like they were just taking something from other arts I've already done and merged them together. I am not saying there's anything wrong with Krav Maga. I'm thinking there's other instructors out there that can probably definitely showcase it better. But the handful of people that I've met over the years that tried to show me techniques from that, I would say probably a B. Because their whole purpose is to deal with, situations, even though I think sometimes I feel the way they go about it is a little bit awkward, but yet I think the techniques in their purest form, or what they're trying to accomplish, do get the job done. And then let's not forget Jeet Kune Do. So JKD is be all end all, okay? So use always as way and take what's best from some and get what's worst of the others. And so I thought I would just kind of throw that in the mix. JKD. So my experience with JKD is going to be under Sifu Ed Stahl, Sifu Balicki, and Sifu Dan Inosanto. And in my experience with all that, it's mostly kickboxing. There are some trapping elements, and there are some pieces to all that, and there's some cool stuff in there, but most of it we're doing is kickboxing. So I kind of feel that just falls back under kickboxing. I think, again, JKD gets a bad rap, kind of like Aikido, because there are a handful of people that are out there showcasing this art that aren't necessarily very good at either A, the art, or B, showcasing it. I think there are people that are very good at demonstrating some of the JKD techniques. Again, I got Kevin Lee. He is phenomenal at doing some of the trapping and the kickboxing, and he can merge those pretty seamlessly. And of course, Sifu Ed, Sifu Ron, and of course Sifu Dan. They can just JKD. Again, I'm going to put in the same category, because I'm going to say it's basically a kickboxing based on your experience. I would say, again, probably a B. All right, I'm going to get chastised for this. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or if I want to just say Jiu-Jitsu in general. Again, I don't think Jiu-Jitsu is the best for when it comes to street situational self-defense. A lot of the stuff we're doing is on the ground. Everything we're doing is in a nice, controlled training environment. There are very little strikes thrown in traditional Jiu-Jitsu, if any. But traditional, just sport Jiu-Jitsu or Jiu-Jitsu in general, they're not dealing with strikes. And then everything we're doing is on a matted floor and comfortable clothes. Well, what do you do when you're talking concrete? I live in South Carolina. In the middle of summer, we're talking 110, 112 degree days, and that blacktop is even hotter. I do not want to go to the ground if I don't have to. I do not want to be shrimping, no M&I rolls and all that mess. So I don't see that as an ideal situation. I think it's really good at teaching how to deal with submissions and how to deal with stuff. And if someone does tackle you and put you on the ground, that's great that you know how to deal with it. But I don't necessarily want to go to the ground. I'm sure as hell not going to pull guard, and I'm not going to butt scoot at all. So learning a takedown, something like more of a judo throw or something, I could see being a little bit better. But making sure you can do a takedown, and if you can get to a top position, sure. But if you get taken down and you're on your back, some of those things aren't going to be ideal. And again, I don't know if enough jiu-jitsu is dealing with being punched, and on the street, one or two good punches can change everything. We even know, I think Hoist Racy said, what, the first punch makes a black belt a purple belt, the second punch makes them blue, third punch, everybody's white belts. Jiu-jitsu, I'm going to put as a B tier. I think it's still good, and I think the techniques they teach are good, but I don't think it's ideal for a street situation, so I'm going to put it on line with karate in them. MMA, mixed martial arts. Now, I would say this is a little bit better than jiu-jitsu because they're dealing with the strikes. I think they're going to have a better chance. Plus, they also know how to maybe stuff and do a takedown or deal with a takedown. So I'm going to say this would be an A tier. The thing is, I think when it comes to MMA, people are trying to engage all the time. They're not fighting to disengage. They're not trying to escape the situation. They're constantly coming back for more. And I think that would be the one little switch or tweak is like, hey, if I throw this kick, I don't want to follow it with a takedown. I want to throw this kick, and as they wince, I want to get away. My purpose for self-defense when it comes to this is to get the person or get myself home safely. Not to say like go home with bragging rights like, dude, I knocked that dude out. It was like, nope, I am home, I'm safe, and that's the end of it. But I would say MMA I would have to put as an A tier. Okay, or maybe even an S. It'd probably be A or S. It's probably the ideal situational one for me right now. Boxing. All right, we're going to go back a little bit. So boxing, great hands. Of course, we don't have any takedowns. We don't have any kicks or leg defense, anything like that. But we definitely have the hands. So when it comes to street fighting, though, we got bare knuckles. Okay, most of us aren't training to punch something as solid as a jaw. And so if we throw that punch, we might break our hand, and now we're down to one weapon. A street situation isn't going to be where we're going to be like jab, 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 cross. It probably is not going to work out that way. Every time you watch a street fight, it turns into just a crazy swinging event, and then next thing you know, people trip and fall down, and they're on the ground, which is where I think the jiu-jitsu or the MMA might help a little bit. So boxing, I'm going to say easily, I would put that back with the karate or the Aikido, I think a B tier. Let's talk wrestling. So wrestling, I think, falls into the jiu-jitsu realm. I think wrestlers have really good control from the top. I think they know how to deal with that. If somebody tackles them or takes them down, they're also really good at, scrambling and doing whatever they got to do to get on top for a pin. But again, we're not talking, there's no punches, there's no kicks. If you're going to be in some kind of fight, all of a sudden you decide to drop for a double leg, okay, well, again, we're talking concrete or blacktop. We're not talking mats and controlled conditions. You're going to be tearing up your knees, going to be tearing up your, heaven forbid, if you drop down and they just knee you or they punch you, you're probably going to be in for a rude awakening. I would say probably a C tier again because of the takedown skills and the takedown defense. However, not having any punch defense, not having any kick defense, I think could really hurt them. CSW, combat submission wrestling or submission arch wrestling, something that's a combat wrestling sport. Now, I'm going to probably say this is going to be, again, like an MMA. This is going to be in that A tier because in CSW and in SAW, we learn striking, we learn kicking, but we also learn all the grappling, all the takedowns, and all the counters. So I think that's just, a form of MMA, basically. It's just a different title. But again, we learn all the aspects. Combat submission wrestling, every now and then we'll put the gloves on and we'll MMA ground fight. And Erik Paulson is a phenomenal instructor, and he kind of really pushes the envelope. Now, because of his Jeet Kune Do background, his Filipino martial arts background, his MMA background, his wrestling background, his catch wrestling background, his submission wrestling background, I think all of those things culminate anyway. So he is essentially doing a MMA program, and it might even have been in some of the MMA stuff. We've done so much when it comes to CSW that I think, and even in submission arts wrestling with Mike Martelle, we've done so much of those other things that I think it's basically, like I said, a MMA or MMA light. I would say, again, probably an A tier. Like those guys, that stuff is probably going to be the ideal situation if I had to use it in the street. Moving on, Muay Thai. All right, when it comes to Muay Thai, strikes I think are top notch. Kickboxing, Muay Thai, I'm going to put those together. Kickboxing, Muay Thai, I think the striking is top level. You have the boxing skills that boxers have. You have the kicking skills that like a karate or Taekwondo person would have. And you just kind of have the more amped up energy. They're definitely more of a combat sport, more of a fighting sport. So again, I'm going to say probably like an A tier. They don't have the defense for takedowns, and they don't have like a whole lot of grappling. Getting them though to that point, I think is going to be the trick. And again, standing up on the street, I think they're going to be okay. And then knowing how to kick and how to punch and how to move and cover and circle out and then turn and all that stuff, I think that's all going to help them as it comes to street fighting. Ninjutsu. Now, I thought it'd be fun because I know Icy Mike has a whole thing about ninjutsu and stuff like that. I did study ninjutsu for about a year and a half when I was in South Dakota, and I would say ninjutsu is going to be like probably a C or a D tier. They do have some grappling, they do have some striking, but they don't pressure test anything. Nothing is sparring related, or at least not in the ninjutsu that I did. So there might be other schools, just like how my Aikido was more of a combative Aikido. There might be some combative ninjutsu schools out there, and they're actually doing ninjutsu and pressure testing and sparring and doing all the things. And kudos for you guys. I mean, I think that would definitely help out. But the ninjutsu I studied, there was really no actual sparring, and everything was done like, hey, if they throw the punch, you're going to do this move, and then you're going to do this move, and then you're going to do this move. It was very karate-ish, taekwondo-ish based. And in the entire year and a half, 2 years that I studied it with the guy, it never really changed. So I can't say that like, hey, we have all this stuff. He had a little bit, we had a little bit of grappling when we did the training, but it's nowhere near like the level I have now. We had some striking, but again, after doing Muay Thai and kickboxing, it's definitely probably D, probably the worst one on this list, in my opinion. So we have one last art to talk about, and this is called TFC Jiu Jitsu, or Total Fighting Concepts Jiu Jitsu Self-Defense Systems. This is something specific to Martial Arts Limited, and when it comes to the world of self-defense, I think this is a good art. It takes a little bit of Filipino martial arts, it takes a little bit of the jiu-jitsu, it takes some of the karate, it takes some of the kickboxing, some of the judo, but I like it because it also includes a little bit of the weapons. And then in my curriculum at my gym, we even have various self-defense, aka like headlock escape, rear naked choke escape, all those things, and we pull from all the different arts. So again, maybe even similar to like something like a Krav Maga. So I would have to say that's going to be one of my A tiers. Again, I don't think anything's going to be in the supreme category. I was really solid at moving around the different arts, but yet this is before I got in Filipino martial arts with Guru Ron. This is before I got into JKD or whatever with Sifu Wedding and Sifu Dan and Sifu Ron. This is before I kind of got a little bit more that exposure to all these different arts. I was pretty confident, or I was comfortable I could bounce from a jiu-jitsu class into a weapons-based class, into a kickboxing class, and I was okay. I think I was like at a 80%, maybe a 79%. I did better than somebody who only focused on one thing. I was good. So that's where I'm going to say it's an A tier system for this video. All right, full disclaimer. First things first, I do want to make sure everybody understands that more than the art, I think it's the instructor that's going to make all the difference. I have had a couple karate students back when I first moved back to the States, and I had a gentleman, his name was T, and he had a karate background, yet he knew most of the Aikido locks that I knew how to do, and he also had a pretty good handle on takedowns, aka from judo, and some good grappling skills from jiu-jitsu. And when we talked about it, he said, well, my instructor is ranked in all these things, but he just called it all karate. So you might have a Taekwondo instructor that's top level. Maybe he is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, or he's also done MMA, or he's done this, that, and the other. And I think they can present that Taekwondo, or they can present that art in a different way. What we were trying to do today is just kind of showcase the art by itself. But please understand, more than the art, it's going to be the person, the instructor. It's not going to be, is jiu-jitsu better than catch wrestling, better than wrestling, better than boxing, better than karate? It's going to be whoever's teaching it can really showcase that. Well, there you guys have it. That's my thoughts on this whole situation and self-defense. And you guys put in your comments below. I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say. And of course, you can always still comment now. Let me know what you guys think. Am I right? Am I wrong? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Am I crazy? Am I dead on? Let me know what you think. Awesome. Well, you made it to the end of the video. You know what to do. Hit that like button if you like the video. Go ahead and smash that subscribe button is like the stuff you see on our channel. And then last but not least, hit that bell icon, a ding ding, so you know when all the other videos are coming out from myself and anybody else I have here on my channel here at Martial Arts Limited. You guys are awesome. Keep safe. Keep your hands up. Keep training. This is JD, and I'm out.